This video is about the plant press and how botanists use it to press and dry plant specimens. We use plant specimens for lots of different purposes. We use them to identify. We may need to collect a specimen so that we can identify it later to figure out which species we have. Or in this case, this is a record. It may not look very exciting, but this is a water plant. And this is the first record from the west side of the Cascade Mountains in Oregon, so it's an important piece of information. So in this case, this is being dried. It's been prepared using standard techniques, and it's intended to be an archival, a museum specimen that will be available for use for a long period of time. It needs to last for decades or possibly hundreds of years. So the plant press is basically, the best way to think of it is as a giant sandwich. So I'll describe it by starting at the outside and moving in. On the outside we have two straps with buckles that are easy to loosen and tighten, and these are used to put pressure on the press so that the specimens inside are squashed flat. Next in the sandwich, there's on both ends there is a wooden board. This is one of them, and it has a specific orientation. You can see that it has an outer side where the slats are going long ways and an inner side where the slats are going crossways. You always use it with the long slats out and the short slats in, because otherwise when you tighten the straps, the slats will break apart if the short ones are outside. So we'll move on to the next layer of the sandwich. Here it is. It's simply a piece of cardboard. There's one at each end underneath the board, which just keeps the press, the specimens rigid, and then they're scattered in the middle of the sandwich with the job of absorbing wicking water out of the press to help the plants to dry. They don't do this very efficiently. If we were actually in a hot place where the specimens might rot before they dried, we would use a metal corrugated plate instead of the cardboard, but up here in Vancouver this is just fine. Next come the blotters. These also are part of the drying mechanism. So they are just large sheets of absorbent paper, and with the sandwich they'll go inside the cardboard. They'll be between the cardboard and the actual specimen. Unfortunately, during this class we have another kind of paper that we're using that is for mounting the final specimen. It's expensive paper that's archival. It will last forever. It's got long-lasting materials. So don't use that to blot the specimens, and don't use the blotters to mount the specimens. The two pieces of paper look similar, but the main difference here is the size. The texture is also slightly different, but the archival mounting paper is slightly smaller than the blotters. So please don't mix them up. And finally we have the newspaper. We're just using newspaper to contain the specimen, and we use recycled Vancouver newspapers. This is the exact perfect size for use in a plant press. So we'll be using these and no other newspapers to prepare specimens. So over here we have the whole sandwich. You can see on the left, you can see the board peeking out. Then you can see the first piece of cardboard. Inside of that is a piece of blotting paper. And then there is the specimen in the newspaper being prepared, ready for pressing and drying. And then beyond that we have another blotter and another piece of cardboard. So the order here is going to be cardboard, blotter, specimen, blotter, and then maybe another cardboard. This depends on your interpretation of the specimen. How wet is it? If it's wet, you'll probably want to go with one or just two specimens between sheets of cardboard. If you're dry, if it's like grasses or sedges or something that's going to dry very easily, then you can actually do quite a lot of them. You could do blotter, specimen, blotter, specimen, blotter, specimen, and do 5 or more of those between your pieces of cardboard. Having put all that together, you then just assemble it into the plant press. You put the boards and the straps around and squeeze it tight, and then it's going to stay like that until it dries. You want to check it quite often. Maybe every day is good. And check for water. You don't want the water to stay too long in there, because otherwise the specimen will rot and you'll have a pile of fungus instead of a beautiful flower. So check particularly the blotters. So if the blotters feel wet, the best thing to do is to swap them out. Just take out the wet ones, leave them somewhere to dry, and replace them with dry ones, and then reassemble the plant press, and do that until the plants are dry. So you look at the bits most likely to be wet, the thickest parts, and feel them. If they feel in any way wet or soft, then it needs to dry some more. So put them back in. Once the whole thing feels dry and rigid, then you're done. That specimen can come out of the press, and you'll need to replace it with another one. So that's the full operation. And here you go again. This is a plant press with mismatched straps. This is cinched down and drying plants. So once you've watched this video and understood the different components of the plant press, go to the class website on Blackboard and take the quiz.